Okay. In downward facing dog, when we tell people to lift the sit bones or return the natural curve to their lower back, a lot of times instead of moving from the sacro-lumbar junction right there, they move from the rib cage like that. So I'll just show you what that looks like, what you'll see. So in downward facing dog, we might be there. First we need to say bend your knees and deepen at the hip crease. Push with the hands and get the pelvis back. And then we might say, lift the tailbone or spread the sit bones. And what you see students do is either push their knees straight or sink in their shoulders. So what we need to cultivate is the ability to move from the lower back, not move from the center of the back or the rib cage. But we're not going to be able to get them to do it in downward facing dog because they're upside down and facing backwards. So we need to isolate those in either first a standing position and then in an all fours position. So one of the ways that's easiest to get them to isolate is I tell them to take hold of the bell of their rib cage. So first we're going to actually move from the rib cage because that's what everybody really likes to do. So keeping the pelvis fairly still, we grab the bell of the rib cage and we ding the bell. Ding, ding. So from the side that'll look like ding, ding, ding. And this is where a lot of people think that they're curving from their lower back. So this is a kyphotic position. This is what a lot of people think is a lordotic position, even if they have their tail tucked under. Once we've found that, we bring the rib cage into center, and then we're going to use, you know how some bells, they ding the bell, and other bells, you keep the bell still and the clacker dings. We're going to use the pelvis as the clacker. Keep your rib cage bell still, and moving the tailbone back and forth, moving from the sacro-lumbar junction, we get the ding, ding, ding. And for a lot of students that'll be really difficult not to move from there, but that's good practice. Another way to do it is once they've got a feeling of the rib cage still, to take the fingers here to that sacro-lumbar junction and feel the pelvis moving at that junction. Making that little J spine, keeping the rib cage still, able to move. So the first thing we need to do is teach people not to let their head collapse, but to draw the face away from the floor, draw the front of the throat in. My cue for that is poo-poos on the mat, but not everybody likes to use that. So not in the collapsed position, but drawing the front of the throat in and the chin slightly down. And then we find we can move from the rib cage, which is what everybody likes to do, and isolating then the pelvis. So you may, as a teacher, if you're a teacher, or for your own body, you may need to put a hand onto your rib cage to stabilize the rib cage so that you're able to move from the lower back, not moving just from the center. You're trying to isolate your pelvis, get that feeling. And once you've got the feeling, you can use a mirror to use visuals or use your hands to keep something still. Then we can take it up into downward facing dog. So hands push away, get the straight line from the heels of the hands to the sitting bones. Manage the head by bringing in the front of the throat, keeping the back of the neck long. Find the straight line without collapsing or dropping the lungs onto the floor. Keep the bell centered, and then with knees bent, we find how we can control the pelvis. And what you'll see in my body is as the tailbone goes down, the weight moves forward into the hands. As the tailbone goes up, the weight moves backwards. And what we find is the balance of all three rings, the head, the chest, and the sitting bones.